Revealed, the miraculous story of Esau's sons and their transforming journey from hatred to redemption. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the land was rife with turmoil as whispers of past betrayals lingered like shadows over the descendants of Esau. The rugged terrain of Seir, with its craggy mountains and winding valleys, bore witness to the struggles of 2 brothers, Eliphaz and Reuel, as they navigated a legacy wrought with pain. Their father, Esau, carried the bitterness of Jacob's deceit, a burden etched deeply into the hearts of their kin. Eliphaz, the firstborn, stood at the edge of a precipice one fateful evening, overlooking the ancient well of Bir-lahai-roi. It was here that Hagar once encountered the angel of the Lord, a moment marked by divine revelation and promise. Yet, within him stirred a conflict, for the voices of despair echoed the sins of his father: bitterness, resentment, and a fractured relationship with Jacob, his father's twin brother. What is a man if he does not strive for peace? He mused, contemplating the weight of the past and its hold over his present. Reuel, youthful and impressionable, often looked to Eliphaz, seeking guidance amidst the turmoil. One evening, as the flames crackled near their family fire, he discovered their father's old flint knife, a relic of violence and division. Its blade rusted and dulled, it symbolized the severed bonds of brotherhood. "Brother," he ventured cautiously, "must we follow the path of our forebears?" His heart brimmed with curiosity, the innocence of youth clashing with the grim inheritance he sensed in their lineage. Eliphaz's gaze narrowed, reflecting upon the stories told by their grandfather, Abraham. The tales of covenant, promise, and the hope that lingered for generations inspired him. He remembered the wrestling match of Jacob with God, which ought to be a testament to divine struggle and reconciliation. "We are not born for hate but destined for love," he declared silently as the stars blinked above like promises yet unfulfilled. Yet, the grip of chaos tightened as reports of division amongst the Edomite tribes reached his ears. One day on the edges of the valley of Taman, they encountered a Canaanite trader whose words danced with tales of peace and alliance, a glimmer of hope in the shrouded legacy they bore. As Eliphaz listened intently, an idea began to form, one that dared to defy the constraints of history. Could he, Eliphaz, be the instrument of healing between the factions? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. Eliphaz, stirred by a divine nudge, understood he needed to rise above the turmoil. The prospect of mending their household's rift glimmered with potential, urging him yet again to seek reconciliation. He turned towards the mountains, where echoes of grace resonated, waiting for his decision. Could he summon the courage to embrace this divergent path? Would Reuel follow? The promises laid before them buzzed with the unseen presence of God's provision, inviting them into a story of redemption where love might yet conquer the deep-rotted hatred that clung like thorny brambles in their hearts. The journey ahead would demand much, yet within it lay the hope of new beginnings woven deeply into the protective tapestry of divine grace. As dawn painted the horizon with hues of gold and crimson, Eliphaz stood resolute upon the rocky ledge, gazing into the vast expanse that stretched before him. The weight of uncertainty tugged at his heart, yet alongside it emerged a flicker of hope. "God, if you lead me, I shall follow," he whispered, his voice blending with the rustling leaves and distant calls of morning birds. Reuel, drawn by his brother's fervor, joined him at the precipice. "What does your heart say, Eliphaz?" he inquired, his youthful face reflecting the innocence yet burden of their lineage. Eliphaz met his gaze, fueled by a conviction that transcended the shadows of their past. "We are heirs of a legacy, yes, but we are not bound to repeat the sins of our forefathers. We are called to forge a new path. There is a life beyond vengeance, brother, a life where the divisions of old might be cast aside." Thus, the brothers descended from the heights of the mountain, their feet steady upon the rugged terrain of Seir. As they journeyed, the tales of their ancestor Isaac echoed in Eliphaz's mind of a family that prospered amidst trials, a lineage filled with God's remembered promises. With each step, Eliphaz began to formulate a plan. They would seek out the leaders of their clans, and the tribes scattered across Edom. But in the shadows loomed the specter of their father's legacy. The animosities between Esau and Jacob had birthed a deep-rooted strife, palpable and thick. As they approached the encampment of the Edomites, Eliphaz felt his heart race. Would they reject him? Would they cling to their grievances, swayed only by hatred? Finding a gathering of men under a great oak tree, Eliphaz and Reuel stepped forward with courage. "Brothers of Edom," Eliphaz called, his voice echoing across the muted conversations. "We come not to speak of past wrongs but to seek a way to heal our divisions and to restore what has been broken." Whispers rippled through the crowd, suspicion evident upon the faces turned towards the brothers. "Have you forgotten the injustices dealt upon our forebears?" One elder replied, his eyes narrowed in defiance. "Your name bears the weight of deceit, as does your father's." "Our names do not define our destinies," Eliphaz countered, fervently. "Can we not choose to rise above the legacy of bitterness? Can we not seek the peace promised to our grandfather Abraham? With courage and unity, we can restore what has been torn asunder." Reuel stepped beside Eliphaz, emboldened by his brother's conviction. "Let us remember the blessings of God among us. Is it not written, 'Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God'?" His words rang clear, a gentle reminder shimmering with divine truth, cutting through the tension like a whisper of calm amidst a turbulent sea. Eliphaz held his breath, awaiting their response, for he sensed it was a defining moment. The elder's expression softened, if only slightly, as the sincerity of the brothers penetrated the hardened hearts surrounding them. Yet, before a conclusion could unfold, a figure emerged from the crowd, Mara, daughter of Zibeon, wise beyond her years. "I have heard the words of our brothers, and yet, many of us still carry the wounds of the past. How do we trust again?" Eliphaz's heart quickened at her query, for the pivotal question clung to the air, resonating deeply within him. "Trust is a journey, and it begins with a single step taken together," he declared. "If you would walk with us, we can find a way forth, one guided by the love and mercy we are called to share." The crowd fell silent, yet he sensed a shift, a stir of hope in their midst. Thus, as the sun ascended in the heavens, illuminating the rugged mountains of Seir, the seeds of reconciliation were sown amongst the wounded hearts. What transpires next will reveal whether the bonds of brotherhood can be mended, or if the sins of the fathers will haunt the lineage of Esau forever. But unknown to them, a greater plan was unfolding. For within the very fabric of their struggles lies the promise of God's covenant, a promise that would weave through their lineage and touch the lives of generations to come, heralding the coming of a Redeemer who would reconcile all nations to himself. As the murmurs of the crowd faded into a contemplative silence, Eliphaz felt the weight of their stares, each pair of eyes a reflection of the distrust and heartache they had borne for generations. The sun, now rising higher in the sky, cast its warm light upon the gathering, illuminating their faces marked by the trials of their past. Mara stepped forward, her brows furrowed in thought. "What proof do we have that your intentions are true? Words can be as empty as the wind that carries them." Her voice was steady, and though her heart leaned towards reason, the hurt from years of betrayal lingered. Eliphaz met her gaze with unwavering resolve. "You ask for proof, dear sister amongst us. Then let it be the change in our hearts that speaks. Let us labor together, not as adversaries, but as kin bound by the will to mend our brokenness. Trust cannot be asked, it must be earned through our actions." The elders exchanged glances, weighing the words of the young men. Yet, skepticism lingered still, like dark clouds hovering above a landscape yearning for rain. One elder, bald and frail, raised a hand. "And what does trust look like, Eliphaz? It is easy to promise peace, but how do we know you will honor your word?" Reuel stepped forward with bright eyes kindled by hope. "Let us make a covenant together, one symbolized by the fruits of our labors. If our intentions are pure, then we shall gather a harvest not in fields alone, but in our hearts. Let us bring forth offerings of peace, that all may witness our commitment to a new legacy. A ripple of consideration washed over the crowd as the words of the brothers took root. The murmurs grew hopeful, now more curious than cautious. As the sun began to reach its zenith, casting sharp shadows on the ground, a surprising sound echoed from within the encampment, a shout that caught the attention of all present. The source, a young boy, rushed forward, breathless and wide-eyed. Urgent news from the east. He cried. A band of raiders approaches, intent on seizing our livestock and land. Panic ensued, and brothers turned to brothers as if by instinct, the old rivalries flaring anew. Eliphaz felt the bitterness of history threaten to engulf them once again. No! He shouted above the tumult. This is the very test of unity we sought. Must we allow fear to make us enemies? We stand together now, or fall apart alone. His voice rose above the clamor, piercing the hearts hardened by years of enmity. He beckoned the elders, we must go forth in strength together. Our past may haunt us, but our future can be forged anew. Call to all our men, ready themselves not for war, but as one force in defense of our shared home. Reuel, fired with his brother's fervor, followed suit. If we stand united, the raiders shall see the strength of our kinship. Let us march, not as divided clans, but as peacemakers armed with the courage of merciful hearts. In a surge of adrenaline, they gathered their forces, men and women from the encampment, ordinary and noble alike, forgetting their enmity amidst the roaring calls for action. The unity forged in their desperate moment became the promise of what could be hope in the depths of strife. Marching toward the horizon, they found their voices in a song, mingling their fears with unity and guiding their steps into the dawning light. But even as they proceeded forward, a deeper plan remained woven within the fabric of their lives, a testament of divine providence unfolding amidst human chaos. For God was at work, revealing to them even now the grand tapestry of redemption, whispering through the leaves and playing upon the wind, "Behold, I am doing a new thing, now it springs forth, do you not perceive it?" And the voice of the Lord echoed in their hearts, preparing them for the greater battle, not just against the raiders, but a spiritual warfare that would test their newfound bond. For unbeknownst to them, the future held more than a victory on the battlefield, it awaited the arrival of promises fulfilled, echoing down the ages, bearing witness to a covenant of peace through the one who would bring salvation to all nations. As they marched beneath the sun's merciful gaze, the ground trembled with the fervor of their steps, a chorus of hope and fear in perfect harmony. Eliphaz and Reuel led their people, their hearts intertwined with a determination birthed from the depths of despair. The elders, once hesitant, now felt the weight of duty upon their shoulders, resolved to defend their home, their families, and their shared future. Yet, even in this newfound solidarity, doubt flickered like a candle in a darkened room. Mara walked close beside Eliphaz, her brow furrowed, her eyes scanning the horizon. "Do you feel the weight of our past as heavy as I do?" she asked, her voice barely rising above the murmurs of their companions. "Can unity truly overshadow the shadows that we have lived under for so long?" Eliphaz turned to face her, his countenance fierce yet soft. "Unity is not the absence of past wounds, but the presence of a future we forge together. God's hand has led us here, Mara, and it will not abandon us now." As they moved onward, the air grew tense, foreboding whispers carried on the wind. The raiders approached swiftly, their silhouettes dark against the light of day, eager for chaos among the vulnerable. The fear that rose in the hearts of the people was palpable, memories of past betrayals igniting old unhealed wounds. Yet a mighty wind surged, stirring the hearts of those who rallied behind Eliphaz. He called out again, "Lift your eyes to the heavens. Though the darkness is near, together we are a beacon, the light of hope shines brightest in the face of despair." The band of raiders, fierce and ruthless, drew near, their battle cries echoing like thunder across the plain. Yet, amidst the chaos, another sound arose from the ranks of Eliphaz and Reuel. Spontaneously, they began to sing. A song of deliverance, a hymn of old, resounded in their hearts, uniting them beyond mere words. The Lord is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. The people felt the tremor of spirit rise within them, igniting courage where fear had reigned. A whisper flowed through the ranks, "Stand firm, for our God is with us." The chorus of voices melded together in sweeping waves, and the raiders hesitated, momentarily taken aback by the resolute sound of unity. "Now is the time to show our valor," Eliphaz shouted, eyes aflame with passion. "With God's strength, we are invincible." As they met on the battlefield, Eliphaz could feel the hands of his brothers clasping around his own, a physical manifestation of the bonds being strengthened. In that moment, he grasped the profound truth of their struggle. It was not merely a fight for survival but a divine orchestration unfolding, a testament to God's unyielding purpose. Amidst the clashing of swords and cries of battle, a flash of light appeared nearby, illuminating a solitary figure standing at the fringes of the conflict. It was a young boy, a descendant of Esau, bearing unexpected tidings. "The raiders are not what they seem," he called out, his voice shrill yet urgent. "They come not only for your livestock but seek a greater treasure, the legacy of our father." The voices of fear quieted as all eyes turned to him. The boy continued, "They long to unravel the bond of peace that you are forging. You must rally together and reveal the truth of your hearts. For as you unite, the lineage of Abraham flourishes." Realization dawned upon the assembled, and Eliphaz felt a surge of divine purpose flooding through him. The battle before them was more than a fight for survival, it was a battle for their legacy, their identity, and ultimately, for the faithfulness of God's promises. And as they pressed forward, something stirred deep within each heart, the whisper of destiny, declaring that this confrontation was but the beginning of a sacred transformation. In the clash of swords and the rising of voices, a prophecy began to unfold, hinting at dimensions not yet revealed. Yet, even in this turmoil, echoed the voice of Eliphaz, steady and true. We are reminded of the words spoken through the ages, "Behold, I am doing a new thing, now it springs forth, do you not perceive it?" And so the battle raged, not only against the raiders but against the deeper shadows of division and strife, an echo of a promise yet to be fulfilled, as God's sovereign plan hovered just out of sight, waiting for the moment to reveal its glorious culmination. As the battle surged forth, each clang of steel and echo of battle cries reverberated like a heartbeat, a grim symphony of struggle and determination. Eliphaz, emboldened by the young boy's message, pressed deeper into the conflict, rallying his people with resolute fervor. The raiders, brutal in their advance, had not reckoned with the unity kindled among Eliphaz's followers. They fought not as disjointed tribes, but as one body, fueled by the fervor of their newly discovered identity as children of promise. Eliphaz, calling upon his Lord, remembered the words of King David, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear?" Psalm 27 verse 1. And he understood that the Spirit of the Lord now rested upon them, infusing each strike with not just strength, but righteousness. In the thick of battle, Mara, seizing her moment, raised her voice above the din, "Remember who we are. We are the descendants of the promise," she declared, her sword gleaming in the sunlight. Her words pierced the fog of fear, urging those around her to fight with clarity of purpose. No longer were they just defending their homes, they were, in that very moment, reclaiming their heritage, their identity as heirs of the covenants made long ago. Among the chaos, Ruel, wielding his spear with precision, fought at Eliphaz's side. He shouted, "This fight is as much for our children as it is for us. We fight for a legacy unmarred by hatred." His heart burned with conviction. He knew that today their actions would ripple through generations to come. The boy had spoken truth. The raiders, realizing the resolve of their opponents, began to falter. Fear crept among them as they sensed the shift. The unity within Eliphaz's ranks was a force far greater than swords alone. It was a promise that God had not abandoned his people. Then, amidst the clamor, a voice boomed from the heavens, a voice that seemed to emanate from the very heart of creation itself. "I have heard the cries of my people. I will fight for them." The clouds above swirled darkly, revealing a vision of angels preparing to descend. Each warrior of Eliphaz felt that proclamation reverberate in their souls, igniting a fire far beyond what was humanly possible. They felt the weight of their history, of the struggles that had long divided them, and in that moment, a thread of forgiveness wove itself amongst them like a sacred tapestry. Over the battlefield, with rising hope, the sun shone brightly, illuminating the shifting tides of conflict. As the raiders recoiled, Eliphaz shouted again, "Forward! Together!" The ground seemed to quiver with the force of their unity as they surged ahead, taking ground that had long been held by fear and division. But just as victory seemed within reach, the raider leader, fierce and wild, let out a ferocious cry and turned to flee, beckoning his men to retreat. His voice was hoarse, the desperation evident, yet he shot one last warning as he retreated into the shadows: "You are still lost. The legacy you fight for will bring only ruin." Eliphaz, undeterred, responded boldly, "What the enemy has meant for evil, God can turn to good." Their resolve solidified by faith, he lifted his sword high towards the heavens, affirming their collective stand before God. As the dust settled and weary bodies gathered in a circle, the remnants of the battle now quiet, Eliphaz felt an overwhelming sense of purpose sweep over him. They had confronted their fears and insecurities, but more than that, they had grappled with their destiny. God's plan was slowly unfolding before them, as unfathomable layers of redemptive grace painted the horizon anew. And as they began to reflect on their victorious stand, they did not realize that their unity marked the dawn of reconciliation that extended far beyond their present turmoil. For beyond this moment, a deeper revelation awaited them, one that would unite even the sons of Esau with the promise of their forefathers. Thus, within the hearts of all present, a sacred whisper echoed: what if this battle was merely the prelude to the gathering of families long estranged? For in God's kingdom, the legacy of love cannot be undone. In that divine uncertainty, the seeds of a greater narrative were sown, poised to flourish in the fullness of time, revealing how God's sovereign plan would weave together the broken threads of their past into a vibrant tapestry of hope. As dusk settled over the battlefield, the warriors of Eliphaz gathered in a circle, their breaths coming in ragged gasps, but their hearts ablaze with a newfound hope. The remnants of their struggle lay scattered around them: worn swords, fallen shields, and the remnants of raiders who had come to bring despair but were met with unity and determination. Eliphaz's heart swelled as he surveyed the faces of the brave souls who had fought alongside him. They were not simply warriors, but a family reborn through victory and conviction. Mara stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with fervor as she surveyed the crowd. "Let us not forget what has transpired here today," she urged. "Our enemies came to scatter us, to break our spirit. But look around, we have risen as one." Her voice resonated like a trumpet, rallying the weary but emboldened hearts. Ruel, leaning upon his spear, chimed in with resolute confidence: "In this battle, we have not only defended our homes, we have claimed our heritage. Let the tale of our unity be etched in the annals of history for generations to come." Then, from the outskirts of their assembly, an elder approached, his frame frail yet fortified with the strength of wisdom. His gray beard flowed like the rivers of old, and with a tremor in his voice, he recounted the prophecies spoken long ago. "Even our fathers, Abraham and Isaac, foresaw days such as these. The Lord spoke through Jacob, the scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet until he comes to whom it belongs." Genesis 49 verse 10. Eliphaz felt the weight of those words press upon his shoulders. Had they not fought for that very legacy? But it was not yet clear how that prophetic promise converged with their current reality. As night deepened, they lit a fire at the center of their gathering. The flames danced, casting flickering lights against their faces, shadows weaving tales of hope and despair into the night. The air was thick with the aroma of smoke and the tension of unspoken thoughts. "What of the raider leader's warning?" one of the men voiced apprehensively. "He spoke of ruin, of loss. What if we are indeed lost?" Eliphaz rose, the firelight casting an imposing figure against the darkness. "We shall not fear the words of a coward," he declared. "For greater is he who is in us than he who is in the world." 1 John 4 verse 4. The rallying cry of their hearts echoed back, fortifying their resolve against the shadows. In the quiet that followed, a solemn understanding enveloped them. The conflict they had mired in was not merely geographic, it was interwoven with the threads of their very essence as a nation called by God. The gathering sensed a deeper story looming, a narrative that stretched beyond their immediate adversaries, hinting at factions yet unseen. As they embraced this profound reality, Eliphaz turned his gaze to the horizon, where the first whisper of dawn began to break. What shall we say of Esau's sons? He pondered aloud, stirring curiosity among the gathered. For their hearts, once hardened towards us, may yet be softened by God's mighty hand. At that moment, a vision flashed in the heart of Eliphaz, a reckoning of forgiveness that could possibly flow between divided families. He understood then that this battle was not just about land or power, it was a draw towards restoration that spanned generations. The rift between us and Esau's lineage is but a testimony to the grace that will restore all things, he proclaimed, excitement igniting his spirit. Then let us prepare our hearts, for the time is coming when our very families might stand united. The flames flared as if affirming his words, burning brighter, casting away remnants of fear and doubt. And in that moment of anticipation, a sacred promise hung in the air, a promise yet unfulfilled, echoing the essence of God's sovereign plan. What if God is orchestrating a reunion where forgiveness will become the foundation of a legacy? A legacy that shall bless all nations, tracing back to the promises made to our forefathers. Eliphaz closed his eyes, the weight of uncertainty stirring within him, yet grounded in the potential of divine connection. The dawn lay ahead, pregnant with the possibility of what was to come, waiting patiently for its unveiling. In the hearts of the gathered, the promise of reconciliation began to weave through their hopes. What lay ahead would indeed be a sacred journey into the fullness of God's sovereign love. As the first rays of sunlight graced the land, a hush fell over the assembly, a moment suspended in divine expectation. Eliphaz felt the warmth on his face, a reminder of the God who breathed life into the dawn, bringing illumination after a night filled with uncertainty. He sensed within his spirit the whisper of the Almighty, reminding him of his unending faithfulness. What shall we do next? Mara asked, scanning the faces of her kin and comrades. Shall we remain as we are, or shall we seek the sons of Esau, as our forefathers would have? Eliphaz, stirred from his contemplative reverie, declared boldly, we must seek peace. For it is written, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God, Matthew 5 verse 9. It is through the love we show to our long-sundered brothers that we shall witness the fulfillment of prophecy. The men and women exchanged looks, surprise mingling with hope. The embers of their unity flickered with the potential that reconciliation could yet bloom in the harsh soil of estrangement. An ancient warrior named Jethro, whose voice bore the weight of years, stepped forth. But what if the sons of Esau still harbor resentment? Their hearts could be hardened, and we may find ourselves thrust again into conflict. Eliphaz nodded as he recalled the words of the Lord that once echoed through the chambers of his heart. Yet is it not God who can soften the heart, who can change the course of a river? Reflect upon the days when Joseph, having suffered immensely, chose to embrace his brothers. Did he not declare, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good, Genesis 50 verse 20? The warriors murmured among themselves, the smooth stones of doubt slowly being replaced by the pebbles of faith. They began to grasp that this venture was not merely a risk but a sacred call. In unison, they pledged, then let us go. We shall unveil the love that lies hidden within our very souls, and perhaps, the sons of Esau shall receive us. Thus, in the light of a new day, they began their journey toward the east, traversing the rugged valleys and barren hills. As the miles unfolded beneath them, Eliphaz's heart thumped with anticipation, each beat a prayer that soared heavenward, asking for guidance and reconciliation. Days slipped away as the traveling band neared the lands of Edom, where the sons of Esau had established themselves. The air thickened with apprehension as they approached the first encampments, each footfall a call to reclaim what had been lost. Stay vigilant, Eliphaz instructed, his voice a steady anchor. Let us approach not as conquerors, but as emissaries of peace. For our aim is not to bring about strife but to sow the seeds of unity. As they neared the outskirts of the encampment, a figure stepped forth from the shadows. It was a man of stature, his presence commanding yet exhibiting a weariness born from years of conflict. With a furrowed brow, he regarded Eliphaz and the company with both caution and curiosity. "Who are you that crawls forth to challenge the might of Edom?" the man called, suspicion lacing his voice. Eliphaz stepped forward into the luminous light of dawn, raising his hands in gesture of peace. "We come in the name of unity, seeking to heal wounds of the past. I am Eliphaz, son of the brave, yet I stand not alone. For the hearts of many converge here today, longing to reclaim kinship where once enmity reigned." The man's eyes flickered with both hesitation and the glimmer of recognition. "You speak claims that challenge the lineage of animosity we have known. What proof do you offer that hearts can be changed?" At that moment, the wind seemed to carry the echoes of ancestral promises, a divine whisper resonating through the assembly. Eliphaz paused. In the silence, the Spirit of the Lord descended upon him, a revelation stirring in his soul. The promise was made to our forefathers, a promise that unites us beneath the same covenant. Are we not brothers, descendants of Abraham, who watched as tensions brewed in the lineage of Isaac? The tension in the air thrummed with spiritual intensity, as both factions stood poised on the precipice of a monumental choice. Little did they know that within this moment lay the threads of destiny, woven through the sovereign plan of God. Would the flame of reconciliation spark between Esau's sons and the descendants of Jacob? The heart of Eliphaz swelled with anticipation, for the course of history hung delicately in the balance, and he sensed their journey was only the beginning. Would the day yield the awakening of unity long foretold, or would they retreat once more into shadows of strife? With unwavering faith, they awaited the answer, sensing that the true measure of God's plan for generations yet to come was on the verge of revelation. What if this was the moment where echoes of forgiveness would set the stage for enduring legacy? The dawn had brought them here, but it was the unseen light of God's purpose drawing them forward. As Eliphaz stood there beneath the morning sun, the eyes of the assembly gazed upon him with a mix of trepidation and yearning. The man before them, a representative of the sons of Esau, folded his arms, pondering the gentleness within Eliphaz's voice and the weight of his words. The air crackled with the tensions of unresolved history, yet something deeper lingered. An unshakable yearning for peace had taken root in the hearts of many. "Your words ring true, Eliphaz," the man eventually spoke, his voice less harsh, softened by curiosity. "Yet, the past between our families is stained like the fabric of time itself. How can we bridge such chasms?" Eliphaz, encouraged by the slight shift in the man's demeanor, replied, "If we look back to how our forefather Abraham settled disputes among his herdsmen, we see unity was made through the spirit of humility and sacrifice. Is it not written, 'For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future,' Jeremiah 29 verse 11. Hope remains in our hands if we choose to grasp it." Moments suspended like fragile webs as the assembly held its breath. They witnessed Eliphaz's steadfastness and the flicker of understanding in the eyes of the sons of Esau. The messenger stood as a flickering torch, illuminating the path before them. Then one from the crowd stepped forward, a woman radiant with courage. "Eldest son of Esau," she called, her voice steady. "I bear witness to the pain birthed from separation. Yet perhaps our wounds can find healing in one another's embrace. Has not the Lord promised that if my people, who are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray, 2 Chronicles 7 verse 14. Let us take action now, seeking restoration instead of retribution." The gentle leader shifted uneasily, as if a scale was tipping within his heart. "What do you propose, woman of Jacob? How can we trust this gesture, or shall it be but words blown upon the wind?" Eliphaz sensed the power of this moment, understanding that revelation was drawing near. "Let us gather at this place, an altar of reconciliation, and present gifts of peace from each of our households. Let these offerings symbolize our commitment to bridge the rift and heal what has been wounded. Then we can eat together in the spirit of brotherhood." The tension thickened. It was a bold proposal, one that called for courage from both sides, yet an edge of hope flickered through the assembly. The man from Edom narrowed his eyes, contemplating the weight of Eliphaz's invitation. This is a risk for both of us. But perhaps a greater risk is continuing in strife, he acknowledged finally. Let it be so. If your word holds truth, we will commune as fellows in the sight of our Father's God. With murmurs of agreement rising, the assembly initiated preparations. Flotsam of past grievances began to subside, replaced by an undercurrent of anticipation for what was unfolding. They gathered fruits, fowl, and grains, offerings of goodwill meant to accompany their fellowship. As twilight descended, Eliphaz stood at the fore, his heart a mixture of apprehension and excitement. The time was at hand, but little did they know that the fabric of God's plan encompassed more than reconciliation, it foreshadowed the threads of covenant renewal that would reshape their destinies. In time, the altar was bright with flames, the souls in attendance nestled snug with one another as the fragrant smoke rose to the heavens. They toasted to unity and prayed fervent prayers for a divine peace that had evaded them for generations. The atmosphere became charged, alive with spiritual anticipation. Suddenly, a mighty wind swept down, enveloping the gathering as if angels themselves hovered nearby. A voice, a rumble of the Almighty, resonated like thunder across the valley. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it? Echoed the voice, startling all present. As Eliphaz trembled with holy awe, realization dawned that God's purpose was not only for them to reconcile but to behold the birth of a renewal destined to spill blessings into future generations, igniting a flame of brotherhood that would illuminate time itself. And amidst this powerful encounter, the hearts of many stirred with fervent questions swirling what would emerge from this moment of unity. What divine assignments awaited as they embraced forgiveness and became tools of restoration? Thus, with the winds of heaven filling their sails, the promise of a transformative legacy unfurled mysteriously ahead, waiting to be revealed in the days to come. As the echoes of the Almighty's voice faded into the night, the assembly of Jacob and Esau remained in awe, their hearts beating as one under the canopy of divine promise. Eliphaz, standing firm upon the altar of reconciliation, turned to face the people, his eyes now ablaze with fervor. Brothers and sisters, heed the call of the Lord, for he has summoned us not only to reconcile with one another but to seek a greater purpose to fulfill the covenant made with our forefathers. The crowd responded with whispers, a mixture of confusion and hope stirring like a tempest within them. What does this mean for us? Came a voice from the back, tinged with wonder. Eliphaz raised his hands, silencing the murmurs. It means that the Lord has established a new destiny for us, a destiny that encompasses generations to come. For it is written, I will make a covenant of peace with them, it will be an everlasting covenant, says the Lord, Ezekiel 37 verse 26. This night marks a beginning, an opportunity to embrace our heritage and embrace each other as one family beneath the vast sky. The son of Edom stepped forward, the fear in his eyes giving way to resolve. Then we shall journey together, Eliphaz. If the Lord is indeed with us, let us step forward as a united people, leaving our past in the shadows of the past. As the flames of the altar danced ardently, the fragrances of the offerings mingled, creating a beautiful tapestry of scents that wafted toward heaven. The daughters and sons of both families carried forth their gifts of peace, pledging lives renewed in servitude to each other and to the God who had called them from strife. In haste, they began exchanging words of encouragement and transformative stories of their ancestors, weaving together a narrative of shared lineage that had long been forgotten. I recall my father speak of the well of Lahai-Roi, one woman exclaimed, tears in her eyes. Though we are from different sides, could it be that we share the same water? It flows into each of our hearts. Cried another, fervent and swift as the brook that had quenched their forefathers' thirst. And in this thrumming communion, bonds of sisterhood and brotherhood began to bloom, roots sinking deep within the rich soil of unity. But amidst their gathering joy, the heavens grew darker. The wind shifted, bringing a sudden silence as the stars dimmed like candles snuffed out in haste. Then, from the depths of the darkness, a beam of light pierced through the clouds, illuminating the altar. An angelic figure descended, radiant in glory, with words that echoed from another realm. "Hear, O sons of Esau and Jacob. You stand on holy ground tonight. God has chosen you to be instruments of his peace. For this act of unity shall ripple through the ages, and from your descendants shall emerge a leader who will guide forth a nation unafraid." Gasps of astonishment began to ripple through the assembly, and Eliphaz fell to his knees, reverence coursing through him. "What is this leader you speak of, divine messenger?" The figure turned, eyes ablaze, pointing to the assembly. "From each household shall come forth a promise, a lineage redeemed to bring forth the everlasting goodness of the Lord. An unexpected turn awaits, for the path may be hard, yet in the shadows, the light shall grow." As the figure vanished, the darkness receded, yet a heavy silence lingered as the assembly pondered the messenger's words, the weight of which sank into their hearts. Eliphaz rose slowly, the joy of the gathering now mingling with divine mystery. "What shall we do, O people of Jacob and Esau?" he asked, his voice steady and profound. "Are we prepared to take on the mantle of promise? Will we be the bearers of this newfound hope?" And with hearts open and spirits ignited by the revelation, they responded in unison, "Yes. We shall follow where the Lord leads." Thus, as the flames reflected the flicker of their devotion, their lives intertwined like vines of a fruitful tree, ready to embrace the purpose illuminated by heaven's decree. Yet still, an indelible question remained, echoing like a drum in their minds and hearts: what trials awaited them on this path of unity, and would they be courageous enough to rise to the occasion? For God's ultimate design was not yet unveiled, and the tapestry of their lives had only just begun to unravel. As dawn broke across the land, bathing the encampment in a golden glow, Eliphaz felt the surge of a new dawn within his spirit. The faces of his people shone with a glimmer of hope, yet he understood deeply that the journey ahead would require unwavering faith and love. The echoes of the angel's declaration remained vivid, a call to action that would reverberate through generations yet unborn. "Today marks the beginning of our covenant," Eliphaz proclaimed, standing upon the altar where blessings had mingled with offerings of peace. "We are called to be vessels of reconciliation, stewards of unity in a world eager for division." The crowd murmured in agreement, and Mara, her eyes sparkling with purpose, stepped forward. "We must go forth, bearing the fruits of our labor as a testimony of the change within us," she declared, her voice ringing with the authority of one who followed her convictions. Encouraged by her zeal, another voice echoed through the throng: "An elder from the clan of Esau, a weathered man whose wisdom bore the weight of countless generations. Then let us gather our people and testify to the wondrous work God is doing among us. Let our families witness the birth of this new legacy." In response to these words, the hearts of the gathered quickened, intertwining into a tapestry of renewed purpose. Eliphaz felt the momentum swell within him. They would venture into the lands of Esau, sharing the story of their battle, the triumph of unity over fear, a testament to the power of grace stitching together what was torn apart in ages past. Thus, with guided steps that melded courage and accounting of their newfound purpose, they traversed the rugged terrain toward the encampments of Edom, where the sons of Esau awaited. With every footfall, the journey echoed with the promise of God's redeeming grace, a promise meant to bind families long divided. As they approached the border of Edom, the stillness of the land before them bore witness to the sacred moment, a moment that held the potential to transform the heart of a lineage. Eliphaz stood before the assembled multitude, now united in spirit, and shared how they had triumphed over adversity, how the chains of hatred had been shattered by forgiveness. The gathering resonated with the murmurs of ancestral teachings. "Blessed are the peacemakers." A voice rang true, reminding them that their quest was not merely about families but about ushering in a renaissance, a dawning awareness that love had triumphed over discord. Mara stepped forth to address the sons of Esau, her voice steady and resolute. "We come not as enemies but as brethren seeking restoration. For we believe that the Lord is doing a new thing even here among us. Can we not cast aside the shadows of the past and walk together into the light?" Hesitation lingered in the eyes of those gathered from Edom, but curiosity twinkled deep in their hearts. One by one, the emissaries from both sides began to shake hands, each touch a symbolic thread weaving their destinies closer together. "And what witness do you bring, Eliphaz?" inquired a leader from Esau's lineage, his brow softening as he sought assurance amidst the unfolding reconciliation. "Let it be written that we gather not just for our families, but for the generations yet to come, as brothers and sisters joined under God's covenant," Eliphaz responded, his voice unwavering, infused with heart and conviction. "Our forefathers have endured much, and their legacy should echo love instead of hatred." As the assembly stood in the golden light of the sun, a palpable shift occurred, the spirit of hope began to replace doubt, and the thrill of new beginnings coursed through their veins. In that sacred moment, the hearts of the Esau clan beat stronger at the thought of unity, a unity that had once seemed lost amidst the divisive echoes of rivalry. Through Eliphaz's leadership, the promise of a renewed legacy began to unfold, and as each clan member stepped forward to share their own stories, the tragic history became a canvas where the strokes of hope and healing painted a magnificent mural. They were learning to view one another not through the lens of enmity but as branches of the same tree rooted in the testimony of God's redemptive plan. The sun dipped low in the sky as laughter echoed through the land, mingling with shouts of joy, a revival not merely for the families of Jacob and Esau, but for the communion of those who looked toward heaven with expectant faith. At that moment, amid the joyful cries of the gathering, the air filled with solemn realization the dawn of a new legacy was upon them, one that traced back to the promises of their forefathers, an unfolding narrative that reached into the heavens and back to the earth with grace unrestrained. As their hearts beat as one beneath the watching sky, the very fabric of their lives began to weave a narrative unified by hope. With joy resounding among them, Eliphaz marveled at the mighty hand of God that had brought them together. And the urgency of their shared mission burned fiercely bright, spreading the message of God's redemption did not end here. The road ahead shimmered with purpose. It was now their charge to carry the testimony forth to every nation and tribe. In the spirit of eternal celebration, Eliphaz spoke one last time, his fervor igniting the crowd. "Let us commit to being ambassadors of peace, for we know the truth that God's redeeming grace flows from generation to generation. May our legacy blossom as a witness to his faithfulness." As their hearts cried out in harmony, heralding a renewed covenant with every step forward, they set forth into the world a people transformed by love, ready to embrace the divine calling that awaited them. Thus, as the sun dipped below the horizon, familiar yet glorious, so too did the old divisions fade away into the shadows. In their eyes shone a spark of hope, a truth rooted in the principles of faith and love, a reminder that God's purposes would always stand resilient, woven into the fabric of creation itself toward the majestic fulfillment of his promises. And it is in such moments, as Eliphaz learned, that the story of God's faithfulness unfolds not only in the lives of those who first beheld it but in the hearts of all who choose to walk in it. Now, dear friends, if you've been blessed by this story of redemption that echoes through time, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to stay connected to God's Word, for our journey through the Scriptures has only just begun. Leave a like now to help spread God's truth through the algorithm, empowering others to find the light that shines from His stories of hope. Comment below with your spiritual reflections and share how this biblical narrative has impacted your faith journey, as your testimony may ignite hope in someone else's heart. And don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear the truth of God's redemption and love. For together, in unity, we can bring more souls to Christ.